So our next session, again, short, sharp and stunning. Projects presented by drivers within their local community. We are going to hear now from David Galloway, who is a master in this space. And I had your notes, sorry, I lost you. David Galloway, I'm just going to invite him to the stage, has been a major driver in terms of Beaufort Street and the work he's done in Perth. Could you please put your hands together for David, who's going to talk about Leederville Connect and probably give us a little bit of reflective practice on how far we've come. Thank you. Sorry, Dave.
Actually, it's Leederville, not Beaufort Street. Can someone tell me how to make this go backwards?
Yeah, there's a little red button to turn around.
Okay, so all respect to the Wadandi people, the saltwater people, who have been connecting land, stories and people for the past thousands of generations. And that's a thing we need to learn to do. So I got 3 propositions about placemaking. So I'm going to talk about those. Then I'm going to talk about what we did in Leederville Connect about those propositions. And then that's going to lead into how we work with developers. So most of you are familiar with this. When you do placemaking, most of the stuff you see in town teams is about activations and actions. There's at the other end, you've got the built form and infrastructure, and in the middle, you've got the public realm, where it's that shady intermediate zone. The second proposition is placemaking works best at a precinct scale. So generally, planning, architecture and urban design are all very siloed and fundamentally about site-by-site development. If I look at my patch in Leederville, that's the sort of precinct that I think of, the area that gets covered. But when you look at how development occurs, it's site-by-site. The third proposition is consultation works against placemaking. Now, when you look at a lot of the consultation processes, they're pretty good at capturing aspirations. In other words, we want it green, we want it nice, we want it pleasant, whatever. Or it's really good at site-based details. Where do you put the planters? But it doesn't really do this whole process of translation, and it doesn't do the big picture very well at all. So what did we do in Leederville Connect? So we sat down and said, we're going to design the city for the user experience. We're not designing for cars, we're not designing it for anything else, we're designing for what does it feel like to be there. And we will define what it is we need to make our city amazing before anyone else does, because there's a lot of people out there and organisations who want to tell you what is good for your city, and in the reality is we are the ones who need to own that story. So we built a story, and how we built a story, and I'm telling you, this is roughly a 3-year process. The story starts from the question, what are we creating? And we did that through parties and events. We talked to each other. And out of that whole process, we generated good ideas. And we had probably about 120. We whittled that down to about 50. And these are the things some examples. We did that by walking around. We had these Jane walks. We just walked around and said, look, what do I reckon do we need? Once again, we had lots of parties, but we were in the middle talking about it. Some of the ideas, we need a place of worship. Now, it doesn't have to be Christian, it can be anything, but mostly our community is way too orientated towards making money. We need to learn about transcendence. We've got Watercorp in our patch. Wouldn't it be great if we could mobilise Watercorp to run this precinct-scale water system? Make it green and natural, put food on the roofs, all sorts of things like that. We've got way too many cafes. We don't have places for the people who need support. So those are just 4 ideas of the 50. And we started thinking about how do we move people around differently. Out of those 50 ideas, we assigned values and prioritised. And this is one of our workshops. Now, one of the things that we do, all our workshops are held in bars. So we get 45 minutes of coherent thinking, and then the plot gets lost and it gets creative. And I'll talk a bit more about this slide, but this is where we are running what's called a multi-criteria analysis over those 50 ideas, and we get this rank. Then what we said is, well, where are we going to put these things spatially? And we did another exercise which we called the user experience map. And so this is our thoughts of what should happen in Leederville. And these are just a few of we wrote this out as a 20 or 30 page document. These are just some examples of ideas, and because we've got a lot of people who are good at graphics and planners and architects and whatever, we made it look nice. And we documented everything. So if you want to see all our work, you can go on the Leederville Connect website, find your way to the design resources. I'll give you a QR code at the end. You can hold your camera up or your phone up, and you can learn what it's about. So some of the outcomes. The City of Vincent has taken a lot of our work into its precinct planning scheme. A tip here, if you see something like a new town planning scheme come along, do your work ahead of it, because usually the consultants who get employed to do the consultation and the town planning consultants are going to be useless. They're only going to be good at, because the planning profession is fundamentally about allocating land. It's not about planning. We've won awards. It's nice to be recognised internationally. The developers are using this to inform their work, and I'll tell you more about that shortly. The citizens have had an opportunity to see what we've thought about for the future. And this was a pop-up exhibition we held in one of the empty shops that we talked about all the stuff that we'd done in the design resources. So now I want to launch into working with developers. Come in, don't feel like you have to walk along like this. Working with developers. Developers are a mixed bag. They're like humans. Some of them are really nice and honourable people. Some of them are scumbags. And you've got to be able to use your antenna to know who you're working with. John Carey, he's not a scumbag, he's a politician. He said to one of these major developers, go and talk to the guys in Leederville Connect because they're doing interesting stuff. Our work in doing design resources has de-risked their process. We did a lot of the intensive thinking for them because we were able to define what is the style and feel of Leederville. We identified where they can contribute because we had 50 good ideas, we'd rank them and we'd put them on some sort of spatial orientation. We provided a conduit into the community so they didn't have to go and talk to a lot of people and we could bring the people in. We built relationships between the developers, the community, local government. We contextualised the project for them and said this is how it could fit looking into the future. And we provided a neutral ground where developers and whoever else, and I'll talk shortly about this, could work together without having to feel like there's too much stuff sitting on the table that might go wrong. So this is an interesting, returning to this slide, because Anna, one of our members, is running the multi-criteria analysis workshop. Then you go working around, guy from Department of Planning, one of our local architects, member of the public, an academic, member of the public, going right down the back, a major developer, on his left, major developer, member of local, one of the local town, works for the city as a planner, and then there's a consultant from a big consulting firm busily hoovering up all the information for free. So now I want to talk about our relationship with this company called EG, and they've got a development at this place called 40 Frame Court. EG, somewhere between $4 to $5 billion worth of investment, coming out of New South Wales. They are the ones that John Carey connected us up with. And this is what they want to build, something like this in Leederville. So it's a major change and departure, sort of 23-storey tower apartment. And we had a choice. We could say, no, we don't want that, or we can say, what are we going to use to create this? So they were with us on this journey of developing the design resources, and it's a emerging relationship. We're trying to work out, do we trust each other? And as we both take a step together, we go, yeah, it seems like both sides have got integrity. Because we could go feral. We could launch a social media campaign that would take those guys out. But that would be unwise, and there'd be just blood on the ground, it'd be horrible. And there's no need to do that sort of thing. If we had a NIMBY mindset, we could do that, but we don't have that. We're saying, what advantages can we build out of this? So the things that we've got, public spaces, relationship to the street has been well defined, community workspaces, rethinking public art, and for a 10-year peppercorn rent to community organisation. And they're also committing to accountability and monitoring, that it looks very likely that we're going to be strongly engaged in that process, and as it says up the top, there's affordable housing. This is a build to sell and build to rent. Now, the build to rent is a good thing because it brings in that opportunity for long-term engagement. What next? So our work is being produced into a video by the National Research Council for Sustainable Built Environment. We're moving into doing further research into what is the future nature of the high street, and that's going to be an issue that we're going to grapple with. And the next stage is to apply that knowledge. We've got a research project with Curtin Uni on this sort of stuff. We're going to take the UX process and link it into community-driven development and investment. So that's the sort of stuff you heard Pilco talk about. And this thing is giving us the opportunity to, and our relationship with EG is giving us the opportunity to leverage to do major things along the line of this. So if you've got your phones and if you've got off Facebook, if you want to connect to the design resources, take a QR code of that one. If you want to look at this interview that was done with Anna Kelderman and myself by Professor Peter Newman, just shoot the interview and you'll be the first people outside of academia to see that interview.
Thank you. Big round of applause for Tony.